The following are collected video and journal logs from various different employees at our own Blackshire facility, all regarding the infamous subject A-1, also known as Arrowhead. As you may know, Arrowhead has recently been reported to have escaped our containment, and has even said to be roaming and stalking the citizens of towns and cities across the world. We could safely reassure you that this is not the case at all. Arrowhead has been exterminated, and there is absolutely nothing to worry about. The following information is solely for the purpose of those who are curious about it and want to put it to rest. Signed, Dexter Farron, CEO of Clover Labs. Recording number 1. A youthful tan man with black short hair stares into the camera. Okay, so this is video log 1. It is the 4th of September. This is the head of research and development at the Blackshire facility. My name is Dr. Phillips. I believe me and my team have made a certain discovery that is vital to the success of Project 5. He moves out of the way of the camera to reveal a dimly lit square room, almost completely devoid of furniture. A humanoid figure sits at the middle, strapped to a horizontal metal chair with iron cuffs. The camera focuses in more on the strange creature. Although its face is completely covered and its body is fully locked down, a tall, masculine form is easily decipherable. Strange groans and mumbles are present. Here is Subject A1, or as we like to call him, Arrowhead. You'll see why in just a minute. However, we'd like to focus on what makes this subject so remarkable. Phillips presses a button on a remote and the chair slowly squeaks into a vertical position, allowing full view of A1's physical stature. Most noticeable upon first sight is the subject's height. When correct posture is forced, it has been measured at 3.6 meters, utterly dwarfing even the tallest of our staff here. Additionally, a very odd skin coloration is quite prominent. As you could see, different shades of yellow occur across seemingly random points of the body. Upon touch, it has a rough, almost rotting texture. He moves positions. Also to be pointed out is the long arms and rather short legs in comparison to the torso and head. He produces a small pointing stick and gestures with it. The arms are elongated to an abnormally large 3 meters, whereas his legs only measure 1.6 meters in length. This causes the arms to widely swing from side to side when the subject walks, and an almost ragdoll-like circling when running or sprinting. Both of the subject's hands have 4 fingers and 2 opposable thumbs, all of which have a razor-sharp, at least 2 centimeter long claw protruding from them. However, it should be noted that for some reason, it only has 4 toes on each foot, all of which lack any claws or nails. After returning the long chair back to the horizontal position with the remote, he then returns to the camera and moves it over to a set of monitors in the corner of the room that seemingly appear out of nowhere. He goes over to the monitors and activates a tape with a VCR. As you will soon see, the subject runs incredibly fast despite its short legs. We have clock speeds of up to 19 miles per hour. All of the screens light up at once and a 4x6 meter rectangular room is visible from several different camera angles across the monitors. Subject Arrowhead is visible in full form, with a tall spear-shaped head, hence its name. On its face are 3 bug-like eyes that seem to be constantly analyzing their surroundings, and that appear to glow green when in darkness. A small circular mouth with dozens of shark-like teeth roars with a mix of anger and sorrow. Firstly, in this tape, we test the physical endurance of the subject. Active medical teams remain just outside in case of any severe injury in order to maintain subjects' optimal health. First, we use a basic 9mm parabellum rounds. In the tape, an automated MP5K SMG is unveiled from the back wall. The subject examines it curiously. Suddenly, a single round is fired from the weapon and makes contact with the subject's chest. The subject appears to be slightly startled for a second, however, quickly regains its composure. No other signs of injury are apparent. Following this, another 10 rounds are discharged into the lower and upper torso of the subject. While it again appears rather dazed and confused for a few long moments, it immediately recovers and begins trying to attack the firearm. The gun returns back into its place in the wall, and the subject ignores it after that. Again, no signs of physical damage are apparent. Dr. Phillips fast-forwards through several other similar tests. We'll skip most of the other recordings as they all appear to have the same result. It seems that the subject's skin, upon closer inspection, contains a newly discovered element that we have come to call Terron. This element causes change on a molecular scale. While it is normally inactive, if even a tiny amount of force is applied to it, it almost instantaneously creates extra shifts in its density and essentially makes it very difficult to penetrate. And so because of this, the subject's skin functions as a very strong natural armor of sorts. As you saw, it made low-caliber rounds, such as 9mm, almost completely ineffective against it. Testing it against more higher-caliber rounds, such as the 7.62 NATO, did generate a small amount of physical damage after 8 or 9 shots. However, the subject fully healed less than an hour later. While we have come to the conclusion that it is most definitely killable, it would take several extremely high-powered military-grade weapons firing on it at once to even incapacitate it. The sound of a door opening interrupts Dr. Phillips. A disembodied voice mumbles something incoherent. And this successfully confirms the end of Log 1. Dr. Phillips hurriedly shuts the recording off. Recording number 2. The camera focuses in on a short steel table, with 2 men on either side facing each other. On the left is Dr. Phillips. On the right, Dr. Horrigan, an old, wrinkled man with thick gray hair neatly combed over on his shiny scalp, topped off with a bushy mustache laying plump across his pale lips. He turns to face the camera. All right. Welcome to anyone who may have been watching. This is Senior Science and Biology Manager at the Blackshire facility. You may call me Dr. Horrigan. It is the 3rd of October. I'm here with my fellow R&D head, Dr. Phillips. He cheerfully gestures at Phillips to begin speaking. Yes, today we are here to discuss the ever-increasing difficulties that we're having with our own little subject Arrowhead, correct? Yes, indeed. Maybe we should explain these difficulties for anyone who may have had the convenience of watching this. A slight edge creeps into Philip's voice, although Horrigan remains cheerful. Of course, as it turns out, Arrowhead appears to be strong. Stronger than we could have ever imagined, in fact. I believe that in Philip's own video log, just a couple of weeks ago, he explains the element of Terron in the subject's skin, and the effect it was having on it, making him a little tough son of a bitch to kill. However, it has surprised us in even more ways than we had thought possible. When we say it is strong, we don't actually mean strong in the term of muscle mass, although this is a very true fact, given its limbs have been measured to hit up to 7,000 psi. What we mean is strong in terms of intelligence. It was able to learn several English words, phrases, and commands within 2 hours. The way it acts calmly and sometimes even strategically in many situations gives us a hint that it might be holding back more than we believe. And finally, the incident that just went on 6 hours ago. Philip clears his throat loudly. I'll take this one if you don't mind, Horrigan. As you said, just a little over 6 hours ago, there was a certain, event that nearly resulted in contamination and possible killing of the facility and everyone in it. The subject, Arrowhead, was apparently testing its containment room's walls for fragile sections. When looking back on the security footage, it appears Arrowhead knew it was being watched and was very subtly knocking on various different parts of the wall, just every once in a while, similar to a child trying to steal a cookie without being noticed. So the long story short, it was actually able to realize when a wall was more hollow than the others and had something behind it. This could point at either an extremely acute sense of hearing, a more intelligent mind than it's letting on, or both. But the point is, it was able to put a gigantic hole in the wall and escape. It was noted that it didn't burst out and go on a killing spree like any normal animal would have done, and as Dr. Horrigan pointed out, it almost seemed to be reacting in a strategic way. It had done everything as silently as possible, and was always very perceptive and hesitant whenever it was about to enter a new room. Also noted is its seemingly new ability to stick itself to walls, similar to insects. Instead of moving right along the ground, it would go on the walls and ceilings, trying to be stealthy. It really was assessing its situation in an intelligent manner. It knew it was outnumbered. It knew it was outgunned, so it went with the most logical move. Dr. Phillips points back to Dr. Horrigan after sipping some water from his small plastic cup. Well, thank you, Phillips. Now, where was I? Oh yes, I have some very interesting, if rather disturbing, camera footage to show all of you. The camera is rotated to the right to reveal a large square monitor. Dr. Horrigan is already putting a tape into a VCR somewhere below. If anyone happens to have an easily upset stomach, well, I would advise you to turn away. Pixelated black and white footage takes over the screen. It appears to be coming from a camera mounted on the upper part of a wall in a medical station. Arrowhead is fully visible, slowly creeping on a ceiling just above. Suddenly, a squad of about 4 men, all equipped with heavy Kevlar armor and armed with military assault rifles, break through a large door behind it. Although no sound can be heard, the loud cracks of gunshots are guaranteed to be taking place. Here you can see Arrowhead's incredibly agile and reaction speed. Almost instantly, Arrowhead darts down to the floor below the cover of a large steel desk. One of the men, the leader, runs forward to attack, appearing to tell the men behind him to spread out. The moment he locates Arrowhead, he is already dead, his entire head brutally ripped off and mutilated by the creature's deadly circular mouth. It consumes the whole thing, helmet, skin, hair, skull, brain, almost immediately, and then begins to practically zoom around the entire room. Within seconds, all 3 of the remaining security men are covered in their own blood, laying on the ground, dead. Arrowhead begins to feed on them when it pauses and seems to hesitate. It slowly moves down to a corner of the room, out of sight of the security camera. For a few very long seconds, nothing happens, and then, as unpredictably as possible, the large bug-like eyes of Arrowhead pop in front of the camera. It appears to do nothing more than stare into the lens for a few moments. the green glow of the eyes easily visible despite the lack of color. Suddenly, a massive monster-like hand bashes the camera, and the screen turns to static. The camera rotates back to the table as Dr. Phillips swears and mumbles something silently. Dr. Horrigan appears to have fallen out of his chair and is just getting up, readjusting his glasses. Wow, it still gets me. Anyway, in this clip we have discovered the true agile prowess of Arrowhead. We knew it could run fast, but this jumping and darting everywhere with such velocity and precision? Why, if it didn't seem so scary, it would be magnificent. Horrigan chuckles uneasily to himself before continuing. Anyway, this is also the first time that Arrowhead seems to have readily and willingly consumed anything. We have tried offering it everything from raw steaks to fish to even fresh fruits and vegetables, but we've had to force feed it in order to keep it from starving. But as seen on the first man and later discovered on the other dead security officers, it seemed to have wolfed down the cranial areas of the body, although ignoring everything else. It also never vomited back out any of the substances that it otherwise should have, such as the combat helmets. Horrigan seems to be done talking, and Phillips begins. Well, I believe that's all for today. Luckily, we have learned something from this and are maintaining much higher security on the subject now. And luckily, it appears to be easily sedated after just 5 tranq darts, which at least gives us an easier way to temporarily defeat it. This is Dr. Phillips and Dr. Horrigan signing off. Both of the men nod to each other, after which Horrigan shuts off the camera. Recording number 3. The camera starts off shaking wildly. Dr. Phillips is staring into the lens, looking a little rugged. He appears to be running and is breathing heavily. This is Dr. Phillips. The date is October something. The subject Arrowhead has escaped again. For real this time. It has breached through to the ground floor of the facility and, well, they're trying to cover it up. They want to make sure it looks as if nothing happened. They can't. Only I know the truth. He stops running as he enters a new room. Some voices are heard talking to him. Oh, no. We can't let it be killed. It must not be killed for the sake of humanity. The disembodied voice becomes a little more clear, has both a confused and argumentative tone. No. You don't understand. We must abort Project 5. We must. There is more to Arrowhead than you could ever possibly comprehend. Killing it will do far, far more damage than it ever could staying alive. Oh, well, what will we do? What will we do? It has become immune to any kind of sedative. It's growing stronger each day. We can no longer contain it. We're all doomed. Doomed. The voice is now fully audible. Look, Dr. Phillips, I know you're supposed to be the specialist on this and all, but I can't see how anything worse could come out of killing it than letting it rip off all of our skulls and leaving the rest of our bodies left to rot in this godforsaken facility. I don't care what you say, goddammit. As head of security, I'm gonna put this fucking thing down if it's the last thing I do. Dr. Phillips is now fully panicked. He seems to be analyzing something in his head. All right, fine. You really want me to tell you? Really? Yes, I really do, Doc. Phillips takes a deep breath and begins speaking. Well, all right. Over the past week or so, we've been studying more into the biological origins of the subject. I'm gonna skip through most of the signs, seeing as you probably won't care, but the point is this. Arrowhead is not from our planet, not from our world, not our dimension, not our universe, period. You see, it isn't an abomination, or mutant, or some kind of alien. It's, well, we just can't explain it. But we've found something big. If upon the event Arrowhead is killed, the camera seems to forcibly shut off. It appears as if someone did a poor job editing afterwards, or to try to hide something. It comes back on after Dr. Phillips explains. So John, go right the fuck ahead. You and your team kill it with your missiles and your machine guns, because I assure you, it will be the very last thing that you ever do, along with anybody else in this facility. For a long moment, silence hangs over the room. Then John is heard sighing. Look, Doc, I just don't know what to do. You see, I'm scared as hell. I don't know if I'll ever see my kids or my wife again. I don't know if I'll ever be able to hang out with my friends again. But I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm not just going to sit back and let that little shit eat our brains without putting up a goddamn fight first. Suddenly, a loud creaking noise is heard from another room. A deafening, inhuman screech is heard as John and the other security team members start to prepare. You know what? Fine. Just fine. But I'm leaving. I'm done with this. Project 5. We were supposed to be using it to help people. Agility, speed, strength, endurance, intelligence. We were going to extract them all, put them into humans, cure disabilities and make real-life superheroes, create the ultimate soldiers and scientists. But I see now that could never happen. If something's too good to be true, we were screwed from the start. I want to announce here now my official resignation as head of research and development at the Clover Labs Blackshire facility. Dr. Phillips gives the camera to John, at which point he holds his hands up in surrender. He then slowly leaves as the camera is shut off. Recording number 4. The film starts off immediately showing the bloody and bruised face of John, who appears to be laying down against the wall. This is... Fits of coughing ensue, and then slowly leave. John D. Hempston, head of security at the Blackshire facility. I'm the only survivor left. Another fit of strong hacking begins, and small flecks of blood appear flying out of John's mouth. This Arrowhead, or whatever the hell it is, has killed everyone currently inside of the facility. I'm the only person remaining. I've been badly wounded. The thing threw me into a table and broke about half my ribs. Probably gave me a concussion. A few coughs set in. I don't know what happened. I was out of it. After Dr. Phillips gave me the camera, he walked about 10 feet out of the room before that thing ripped out his throat. Then it assaulted me and my team, throwing me into one of the lab tables like I said before. One of my guys helped me up and set me against this wall. Told me I'd be okay before his head had been ripped off and his hot, salty blood rained down on my Kevlar vest. Small tears began forming in the corners of his eyes. I don't know why the thing hasn't killed me yet. I heard it was actually smart. Could solve problems, think logically. Could even learn language in the span of a couple of days. But it was horrifying, hearing this alien thing taunt us in our own language, making deeply guttural and otherworldly noises that just barely seemed to form into understandable speech. This thing. He begins chuckling softly, then stops and groans in pain. It swore at us. Swore. It was like the end of Predator, only 10 times as terrifying. You sons of bitches are next, it had said. He shakes his head in shock and gives a sorrowful sigh. I don't know if my wife or my beautiful daughters, I don't know if I'll ever see them again. He is clearly holding back a torrent of tears. But I just want to say that if anyone manages to find this, please tell them. Tell them I love them more than anything in the world. Tell them I'm sorry I couldn't be there for them. Tell them. He abruptly stops talking and goes dead silent, barely even seeming to breathe. The lights go out and everything becomes nearly pitch black, and it is silent for a few seconds before a sinister, gravelly voice begins speaking from somewhere, still seeming to struggle a bit with English. "So you're John, the head of security at the sad excuse for facility. I thought the humans would be better than this." It seems to break out in a very odd and a low kind of chuckle before continuing on. "I mean, you didn't even offer a challenge. I believe the word would be, I apologize. This has been a very strange language to have learned, but still, it is an immensely enjoyable experience taunting you humans in your own primitive form of speech. Quite fun to have terrified you. Did make up for being locked up in that dreadful experimental phase. What kind of lab puts one of its most valuable subjects at risk of harm by shooting at them, even if the weapons are rather basic? You sad excuse for an abomination. What do you hope to accomplish by simply murdering everyone within reach? What could you possibly hope for?" John appears to be getting extremely angry. "Oh, the human has insulted me. I'm so offended." Arrowhead seems to begin cackling maniacally, though it sounds very deep and insect-like. "Well then, you piece of refuse. Come down here and bite my head off. Do it. Come on now. Do it." Wow. What's this? A human not being afraid of their own death. This is rather unique, if I do say so myself. In fact, if I were to show an emotional response, then I would even say that it's rather heartwarming. In fact, it's so heartwarming, I'm going to leave you all alone. I'm not going to kill you. I will simply leave this facility, and you can continue your life as normal once I'm gone. Mind you, these so-called Clover Labs, they will try to cover this up. I expect you may get slightly angry at them for doing so. However, I just thought I'd give you a fair bit of advisory warning before I went ahead and left. But there is one condition. You must let me see that device you're talking to." "What the hell? What? You're just gonna leave? While I get to sit here and wait for someone to come rescue me? This is ludicrous. And how will I know you just won't kill me later on? Maybe you'll get to my family too, huh? Is this a setup?" Arrowhead sounds eerily close, almost as if it's right up against John's ears. "I make no promises that I will not track you down and kill you later. In fact, it is my goal to do this for the majority of humanity, and you will likely be included in that bunch. But for now, and the upcoming days and perhaps weeks, you will be fine. Free to go back to your family, children." Never quite understood why humans held these things so dear anyway. But you forgot about. It sounds as if Arrowhead is talking right into the camera, and suddenly its voice turns into a low, scratchy whisper. "The recording machine." The camera is immediately snatched up, and after a few rustling noises, the lens focuses in on Arrowhead's face. "Why, greetings to the humans who may be watching this upon later inspection of the facility. As you have heard, I will be sparing the human John. I expect you will accept this gift with great gratitude. Yes, I shall be escaping, and yes, all of this has been planned. Thank you for listening, and now I must be off." Arrowhead again begins bursting with an odd kind of laughter before the camera is thrown to the ground and the screen turns to static. Field Entry 001. In some messed up forest from the movies, sometime in August. What is with these people? Seriously, All I ever get when I'm working my hardest and doing whatever is asked of me is a bunch of flack. Jesus, Jenny, why don't you grow a brain? Or, Miss Shaniel, I expected better of you, is all I hear. Maybe it's because I have to get egged on because I'm the youngest in the group. Not like 24 is all that young, but still. Or maybe it's because I'm the only woman. Maybe it's because I get really scared easily. I don't know. But either way, I've started to write a journal so that A, I could pass some time in this mind-numbing place, and B, so that one day, just maybe, someone might think of my life as interesting while reading it. Anyway, it's like 5 in the morning and we've been in these creepy-ass woods for the past week now. And I swear, every time I leave the camp, it feels like I'm being stalked by some monster. Maybe it's that thing we're supposed to be hunting for. Maybe Sasquatch. I don't know. My briefing basically consisted of getting told to pack up and then follow directions to the letter every second after that. And as usual on these operations, when you think about them, operations would seem cool and top secret, and then you realize they all boil into being boring campouts filled with nothingness and charting shit that you don't care about. Maybe science just isn't my thing, but it's the only work I could get, and according to my superiors, I do an alright job at it. What else is there to write about? Well, for one, I'm tired, and my weirdo astronaut-style breakfast tasted just the same as shit. Just like normal. Oh, and there's my commanding officer calling for me again, probably going to repeat being a sexist little asshat. Should give him beating sometimes. Maybe he'll stop messing with people if he gets his face kicked in by a woman. I guess I'll write another one later today. Field entry number 2. On a helicopter above the creepy-ass woods. Well, I think this is the first time I've ever actually thought of my job as being anywhere near the definition of exciting. Then again, this is also the first time I've ever done one of the most important jobs that could possibly be assigned to me, and doing it solo. I guess I better tell the tale of the epic action and adrenaline rush that I so totally experienced. So anyway, after running around in circles with the majority of my field group and commanding officer, Richard, or as I used to call him, Dick, for about 3 hours, we returned to camp to find the 3 guys we left behind to guard the place, having their entire craniums being gruesomely ripped out by some thing. I nearly threw up on first sight, and I felt the urge to get the hell out of there before I would suffer the same fate. But the guys with me wouldn't let me flee so fast. Immediately, they began to empty all their ammo at the monster, who had currently been in the process of sucking up the leftover red goop of the final guard it killed, a guy I had only been barely introduced with the name Derek. As soon as it detected us, it snapped its head in our direction. I had no idea what the creature was. I had no idea where it came from. I had no idea why it was here, on this planet, on Earth. I didn't know if it was an abomination or just, well, I don't know, but I knew we had to kill this thing. The problem was, no matter how much we threw at it, it didn't even flinch. When I first recovered from the initial shock of all the gore when I returned, was when I really had a good look at it. It was bipedal, humanoid, massive, at least 10 feet tall, and had these big green eyes that you'd normally see on something like a fly. They were formed in a perfect delta, just below which lay a round mouth filled with rows of gleaming teeth on the inside. The head was formed into what looked like the tip of an arrow or a spear. The skin? Well, the skin was just disgusting. It looked like it had been forcibly pulled off of someone who died a long time ago and then got mashed and reformed to fit a ginormous shape. All of it was yellow, some of the body parts a darker shade, some a lighter, and it looked really thick. But the sharpest part was how long his arms were and how small his legs seemed. Well, compared to me, I probably couldn't reach the thing's hips. but just one of his arms alone must have been bigger than the both of his legs stacked, which is why I underestimated how fast it would be. When a bullet hit, the only thing it seemed to get was surprised, like it wasn't used to the amount of force being used against it. But other than that, nothing happened. It just seemed like the projectile would bounce off of its skin, leaving no trace behind. But despite this, they just wouldn't stop firing at it. The first guy to go down was Richard, and I couldn't believe how agile the thing was. It must have leapt at least 30 feet to get to him, and then to overpower him and mutilate the guy within a span of less than 3 seconds. No matter how much I hated him, it still nearly brought tears to my eyes just seeing another human get killed so quickly and so easily. Because it was clear that I had no way of actually killing the thing, at least not with any weapons that I had right now, I had to trap it somehow. And that's when something came to my mind. While we were getting in the supply van and preparing to leave on the trip, I'd caught bits and pieces of a conversation between Richard and some guy back at the facility's R&D department. I think his name was Dr. Phillips. Anyway, the Phillips guy had said something about bringing the subject back alive and well as a priority, informing us about how dangerous it was. And that's when it all started to fit. I couldn't believe it. They had sent us here, knowing that beast would come after us, and we had been given top priority orders to trap it, of all things, which all led back to the big iron container at the center of the campsite. All of it made sense now. I originally had no idea why it was there. Whenever I asked, all I was greeted with was either a shrug or "you don't need to know." Now I did know, and I really needed it. I dared to look back and realized I had made a mistake. The subject thing had already killed the rest of the crew, and even though I had managed to get a good distance away without it noticing, it must have sensed me looking back at it. It began to sprint after me, swinging its arms around in crazy circles. Fortunately, I managed to reach the mobile container just in time. Unfortunately, the subject was closing in on me, and incredibly quickly. I had no other choice. I ran inside the container and was immediately treated to a brightly lit area completely empty of any furniture. The only thing I noticed was some water and raw steaks in 2 big containers in a corner, which must have meant to support the subject. They must have meant to keep it in here for a decent amount of time, but the only thing that mattered now was getting that monster in and getting me out. When I ran in, I noticed to my right a large red button that reflected the green of the forest. It must have been the door control mechanism. It was the only way. I doubled around and just barely avoided getting hit by the creature as it pounced right after me. If I had kept running a split second longer through the container, I would have been dead. Now I ran as fast as I possibly could towards the door. I hit the button as I ran through the opening and dived out, and the door snapped shut. I had somehow, amazingly done it. I could hear the abomination pounding on the door a little while after I had run out, and was nervous for a minute, thinking it would successfully break free. But it eventually stopped and must have given up. I radioed in and told them everything. I was crying and swearing at them for killing all of us, and all they said had been, "We're on our way." The magic words. A half hour or so later, no more than 2 military choppers came. Clover Labs, the franchise that owns our facility, plastered brightly across the sides. One of them picked me up, and the other had used some kind of cable thing to pick up the iron container. The pilots and soldiers within the helicopters had commended me with nothing more than a silent nod. And I swore under my breath.